You don't remember deciding to come here. You simply arrive. One moment, the world is quiet and forgettable. The next, you're standing at the edge of a mountain wrapped in midnight and velvet, where the clouds part politely to reveal an old stone platform. The air smells like silver and old paper, like something important is about to happen. But no one is in a rush. You look down at your feet. The platform glows faintly beneath you, not with electricity, but with something older. Something that hums when you shift your weight, as if recognizing your presence. You're not alone. Several creatures in long coats with brass buttons and bright eyes are bustling about. Some are owls with monocles. Others appear to be moths wearing tiny scarves. They don't speak, but they do nod at you respectfully, as if you've passed some invisible test. High above, the stars are particularly alert tonight. They lean a little closer to listen, to watch, to remember. Then it happens. The clouds swirl like opened curtains, and from within them emerges a shape that defies logic and welcomes wonder. A zeppelin, massive and sleek, stitched with silver thread and embroidered with flickering runes, glides into view. Its belly glows like moonlight trapped in a bottle. The propellers don't spin. They shimmer. The gondola underneath gleams with warm lamplight, casting long, gentle shadows on the mountain stone. A soft chime rings through the station. Not a bell, not quite, more like a note plucked from the spine of a dream. A ramp descends with a sigh, and one of the owls gestures with a wing. You step forward. The fabric of the ramp is thick and soft, like walking across pressed petals. The zeppelin breathes quietly beneath your feet, and you have the distinct sense that it knows you, or remembers you, or is about to. Inside the entrance, you're welcomed not by a person, but by a scent. Warm spices, cloves, cinnamon. Something else that reminds you of stargazing as a child. A hallway unfolds in front of you like a ribbon in the wind. There is no receptionist, no check-in desk, just a small sign hung from a velvet rope. You've always had a room here. To your right, a door opens. Your name is written on it, not exactly your name, but the way your name would feel if whispered during a lullaby. You enter. The room is small but endlessly deep. There's a writing desk made of clock gears and driftwood. A potted plant glows softly in the corner, blooming with what looks like musical notes. The bed is perfectly made, but already shaped to your spine, as if it missed you. And in front of the window, your window is a large antique mirror. At first, you think it's your reflection. Same shape, same breath, same stillness. But it isn't. The figure in the mirror is asleep, lying peacefully beside a vase of roses. One hand resting on a book that reads, "The place we almost remembered." You lean in. The figure stirs. Not wakes, just stirs, as if sensing your presence from across a forgotten timeline. You step back, and then the mirror fogs over gently, like a sigh. Behind you, something rustles. You turn. A moth glowing softly at the edges like the pages of an old fairy tale taps the glass of the window twice, then once more. It holds a scroll in its tiny, elegant legs. When you unlatch the window, it flutters inside and lands on your pillow. You unroll the scroll. The ink is warm, alive. You are cordially invited to the captain's midnight dinner under constellations not yet named. Dress. What makes you feel like a possibility? Bring one memory you're willing to forgive. You read it again. And again the words change just slightly. On the third reading, your name appears. In the script of a dream you almost had once. The room shifts around you, or maybe you shift inside it. You walk toward the wardrobe. You don't remember packing. You don't remember choosing. But when you open it, there's an outfit waiting, spun from twilight, trimmed with questions and buttoned with tiny pieces of thundercloud. You dress slowly, reverently, like each layer is a memory you haven't worn in a long time. When you're ready, the mirror clears again. This time the person in it smiles at you. You smile back. A soft chime rings once more, distant but clear. Time to go. You open the door, step into the hallway, and the zeppelin responds with a gentle shift. A hallway light bows slightly, flickering in encouragement. You follow the curve of the ship, the floor humming just enough to let you know you're welcome here. Your footsteps are the only ones you hear. But somehow, you don't feel alone. And far off, somewhere deep inside the belly of this ship, made from stories and sky, you hear a quiet melody begin to form. A dinner waits, a captain, and maybe, just maybe, yourself. There's something about the silence of your room that feels attentive, not empty, not still, just listening, as if the walls themselves are waiting for you to notice something. You return to the mirror. The figure is gone now. Only your reflection remains softened somehow, like someone painted it in watercolor instead of glass. You approach the window curious about the moonlight pooling across the wooden floor. It seems too vivid, too concentrated. Then you see it, not the sky, not yet. The frame of the window doesn't show the outside. It shows the in-between. The pane is covered in frost that pulses faintly as if breathing. You reach out, and your fingertips dissolve the frost like dandelion seeds in reverse. The glass clears, not all at once, but in spirals, revealing not clouds, not stars, a garden, but not one you've ever seen. Suspended in moonlight framed by arches of living ivy, the view shows a floating garden perched atop another zeppelin. This one smaller, quieter, and wrapped in a lattice of vines that glitter faintly with dew and laughter. In the center of the garden, a table is set, white linen, silver cutlery, chairs shaped like spirals and dreams, at each place setting a single rose glowing with inner light. You can't hear anything, but you feel the music. The strings of it tug at something just behind your ribs, soft and certain, like someone remembering you fondly. Then something moves at the edge of the window. You lean in and see a small figure sitting at the edge of the floating garden, cross-legged, reading. A child. No, not a child. You, much younger. Your knees tucked under you, the way you used to sit before bed. A familiar blanket wrapped around your shoulders. A flashlight in one hand and a book in the other. You can't make out the title, but you know the story. It's the one with the tower and the fox. The one where the moon made a deal with the sea. You haven't thought of it in years. The younger you looks up, not at you exactly, just up, toward the stars, and smiles. You blink, and the window shifts again. This time, it shows only the sky, velvet and alive. Clouds that look like softly spoken questions. Stars the color of ink spilled on parchment. A passing shadow in the shape of a violin. You pull the curtains closed gently. As you turn, the door to your room opens by itself, only a little, enough to suggest it's time. You follow the hall again, back into the hush of the ship. The zeppelin breathes beneath your feet, content like a cat after a nap. The walls are different now. The wallpaper has changed. Where before it showed delicate floral patterns, now it holds tiny constellations, hand-drawn, annotated with notes like, "This one laughs when no one's looking." Seen only on Wednesdays that feel like Sundays. Still waiting to be named. You round a corner and the hallway opens into a wider space. Not a lounge, not a ballroom, something in between. Dim lights flicker in crystal globes that drift gently near the ceiling. A soft melody plays a tune you almost recognize but can't quite place. Like a lullaby you once forgot on purpose. There's a table in the center, empty for now, waiting. To your right, another hallway beckons, lined with framed portraits that rearrange themselves as you pass. One shows a tea party with wolves wearing monocles. Another, a staircase that curls into a question mark. And then one more, a zeppelin painted from below. You squint and realize the face at the observation window is yours. Before you can wonder further, the hallway tilts, not jarringly, just slightly, like the ship is turning towards something that matters. And then you smell it. Cardamom, clove, toasted memory, a promise of warmth, and cinnamon, always cinnamon. You follow it. The walls narrow, pulling you forward gently. You feel taller, or the ceiling is lower. Either way, something shifts. Another door waits, not locked, not shut, just paused. You open it and step into what can only be described as a library shaped like a spiral staircase. Except there's no staircase and no clear sense of direction. Books hover in midair, bobbing politely to let you pass. Shelves ripple when they see you, fluttering their spines. There's a desk to your left, carved from cloudwood. Ink and feathers rest beside a parchment that reads, "Dinner is being prepared. You may write while you wait." The ink glows. The feather lifts on its own, and dips into the well. You sit, and without thinking, your hand begins to write. Words you didn't know were still inside you. The names of imaginary friends. The name you used to give the moon. The story you started once and never finished. The feather stops. The ink dries instantly, and the page folds itself into a paper bird and flies into the ceiling, vanishing. A chime sounds once, twice, and then the owl appears, perched on the edge of a lantern, wings tucked, eyes bright. Dinner, he says, is nearly served. You smile. He flies ahead, and you follow. You follow the owl down the corridor, your steps silent against the velvet carpet that wasn't there before. The walls breathe with gentle light, and the sconces flicker not with flame, but with bioluminescent jellyfish floating in place behind glass. You can't tell if it's elegant or absurd, and both feel right. You pass a music room without sound. You pass a greenhouse without plants, only terrariums filled with miniature thunderstorms and softly glowing fog. You pass a closed door labeled guest room of someone not yet born. And then the owl stops. He perches on a brass stand shaped like a treble clef next to a doorway framed by vines that seem to be knitting themselves as you watch. The air smells faintly of moon water and old envelopes. Your invitation, the owl says, turning his head nearly upside down. You'll need to accept it properly. Before you can ask how a moth appears, small, silken, silver gray with eye spots that blink once and then vanish, it flutters down and lands gently on your outstretched hand. Its wings tremble, then open wide, revealing a scroll painted not in ink, but in shadow and memory. The moth does not fly away. Instead, it becomes part of the scroll, dissolving delicately into parchment. The invitation glows as you read. You are cordially invited to the midnight feast in the hanging garden above the clouds. Attire, fog memory, or moonlight gifts. One unspoken wish, preferably bittersweet. Arrival. Upon the music's third hush, you glance up. The vines around the doorway rustle and part like curtains. The owl gestures with one wing. Third hush has just begun. You nod and step through. The next chamber is circular, warm, and entirely walled in wind chimes. Not a single one is ringing. Not yet. At the center is a wardrobe. Tall, crooked, painted in the colors of nightfall and first kisses. Its door is already ajar. You approach slowly. Inside, you see no clothes, only fog and scent. Lavender, old cedar, the smell of sleep before a storm. You reach forward, uncertain, and pull something from the fog. It's not clothing. It's an emotion. The shape of it hangs across your arms like a robe. When you put it on, it fits perfectly, like skin made from nostalgia. You turn to the mirror hanging beside the wardrobe. Your reflection nods approvingly, then opens its mouth and hums a note you've never heard aloud, but always knew. The chimes ring once. A hush follows. Then another ring, another hush, and a third. The room disappears. You're standing at the edge of the gondola platform. The zeppelin is still floating, But now beside it, a small boat made of braided willow roots hovers in the air. It bobs gently, tethered to nothing. Inside, a single lantern glows. No flame, just soft breath light pulsing. You step in. The boat drifts away without direction. Above you, stars rearranging themselves into sheet music. Below you, clouds folding like whipped cream over mountain peaks. And ahead, a bridge. But it's made of birds. Not flying, just hovering in place, wings, wide feathers gleaming like polished obsidian and stardust. The boat passes under them, and each one sings a note. Together, the notes form a melody you'll never hear again but will always remember. The owl lands at the prow of the boat, holding a fork in one talon. Souvenir, he says. The boat bumps gently against something invisible. You step out and realize you're walking on moonlight, a bridge of pure, quiet light, stretching toward a garden that hangs in nothingness. The hanging garden is not what you expect. No vines over walls, no babbling fountains or peacocks crying in the dark. It is quieter, a great circular space held aloft by music and memory. Floating walkways drift among softly glowing planters. Trees whisper to one another in the language of lullabies. There is a single table, long, endless, made from a single slice of midnight petrified wood. Guests are already seated, but not all. Some shimmer like heat haze. Others are crystal clear people with wings, with antlers, with eyes full of night skies. One person is entirely fog, except for their smile. Another is a child with hair made of ink, who hums as they pour tea from a teapot, shaped like a clock, with no hands. You take your seat. A place card waits for you. It reads, "You, the one who remembers how to wonder." You smile. The owl lands beside your plate and straightens his monocle. "You're just in time," he says. "Time for what you ask." He tips his head toward the head of the table. There, a woman wearing a gown of stardust and constellations lifts her glass. "We begin," she says softly. The music pauses. 3 heartbeats. Then the feast begins, not with food, but with story. You're not sure when it started. One moment, there was the faint clinking of cutlery being set down by invisible hands. The next, a sound like a sigh, and the turning of a page swept through the garden. The table responds, not with fireworks or fanfare, but with shimmer. Your plate glows, not brightly, not showily, just a quiet gleam like moonlight. Remembering the way your hands used to trace stars on the fogged glass of childhood windows, a shape appears, not placed, summoned. A small dome of something soft, golden, and gently steaming, as if the warmth inside had been waiting a very long time to be let out. The scent curls up toward you. Cardamom, rose, toasted memory, a sweetness that lives somewhere between a campfire and your favorite sweater. You glance down and realize this is not just food. This is recognition. You lift your fork. The first bite is soft, but it blooms. It tastes like the story someone read to you once. The one you begged for again and again, not because the ending surprised you, but because the ending settled you. It made your toes curl and your shoulders drop. It was safety. It was rhythm. It was the sentence. And then everything was okay. You don't speak. No one at the table does, not because they can't, but because words would feel like shouting in a cathedral. Everyone is eating or remembering, sometimes both. The guest across from you has tears glinting in their eyes, but they're smiling. Their silver fork trembles just slightly as they set it down. To your left, a tall man with golden freckles hums quietly like the melody of a lullaby known only to his grandmother. To your right, a woman with iridescent scales down her neck dabs her lips with a napkin that looks suspiciously like folded starlight. She catches your eye and murmurs, "Mine tasted like my grandmother's kitchen." Not the real one, the one from the dream I kept having when I was 5. You nod, understand completely. Across the table, someone whispers. First course is always nostalgia. A pause. Then from someone unseen. The second is usually something we're not ready for. You look at your plate. The shimmer fades. Not like it's done. Like it's resting, waiting. Then the owl appears beside you again, this time wearing a monocle and a very small cravat. He inspects your plate, nods once, and taps your glass with one talon. "Tell me," he says softly, "what's your small curiosity?" You blink. "Oh, I." But your hand is already moving to your robe pocket. You didn't notice the pocket before? Your fingers close around something warm, small. It beats. You pull it out. It's a sound, not a thing, not visible, but clearly there. The sound of laughter, yours, from long ago, not the kind you perform, the kind that escaped you when someone made a terrible pun and you pretended to hate it, but actually loved it. A memory so quick you almost missed it. You hold the echo out. The owl leans in, listens carefully, then blinks once. Slowly. "That'll do nicely," he says. With one wing, he lifts it carefully into the air. It floats like a soap bubble, glimmering faintly. A few other guests look up and smile. The echo floats down the table. Someone catches it in a bell jar, closes the lid gently, places it in the center. The moment it settles, the air shifts, lighter, like the garden just exhaled. "You've brought levity," the owl says, almost reverently. "Rare these days." You nod, not out of pride, but out of recognition. Then, without ceremony, your plate lifts, not upward, but open. It unfolds quietly into 4 perfect quadrants, like petals or an origami map. Each segment holds something different. One is a cube of glowing coral pink, shimmering faintly like laughter in physical form. Another is a spoonful of black ice, whispering gently in a language that might be wind. A single green leaf balances atop a curl of amber honey. And finally, a crumb of cake so dense it bends light slightly, casting shadows. It has no business casting. No one says, "Begin," but you do. You choose the coral pink cube. It fizzes on your tongue. Not pop rocks, not soda, but insight, like realizing something wonderful 2 years too late and being completely at peace with that. You laugh quietly. Next, the honey, gentle, soft. It tastes like someone once waited for you in the rain holding an umbrella and never said anything about it. Just waited. The black eyes, sharp, not cruel, but clear. It tastes like the time someone left without saying goodbye, and you stood at the door for 5 minutes longer than you needed to. And the cake. You pause. Look around. No one else is eating theirs yet. The owl watches you, eyes glittering like moonlit ink. Eat it, he says when you're ready. You nod. Lean back. Your chair shifts beneath you, becoming a swing. You sway gently, looking up. Above the garden, the stars are no longer constellations. They've rearranged into a map, but not of places, of feelings. Each one flickers with a name only you can read. The first time you felt free. The moment you forgave yourself. The song that still makes you ache in the best way. The music returns, soft, low. A story told without words. And you close your eyes. For a moment, just a moment, you open your eyes slowly. The stars overhead have shifted again. Not gone, just rearranged. They now form a staircase, spiraling into the sky, each step glowing like a wish, whispered before sleep. But your gaze returns to the table. You still haven't touched the final quadrant of your plate, the cake that bends light. It waits, patient, unmoving, undemanding. You're not quite ready. And that's fine, because something else begins to stir. From the far end of the garden, just beyond the line of ivy-draped lanterns, you hear a soft pattering, like paws on velvet. Then a ding, then a tunk, then a whisper of something floral being tossed into the air. The owl blinks twice and murmurs. He lifts a wing slightly to his beak, as if to suggest reverence. And then it arrives. A parade. Yes, a parade. But not the kind with crowds and noise and confetti that gets into your shoes. This one is smaller, precise, unapologetically adorable. First comes a raccoon, upright, wearing a blue velvet marching coat with brass buttons no larger than dewdrops. He's playing a tuba the size of a teacup, and yet the sound is perfect. Low, round, and warm like a belly laugh remembered fondly. Behind him, a badger taps a triangle held by a strand of ivy. Each chime sends out visible notes like smoke rings made of sound. Next, a squirrel, wearing a velvet cape and carrying a satchel from which he tosses flower petals shaped like ampersands, semicolons, and ellipses. They drift gently to the stone path and dissolve like punctuation never written. The guests turn in their seats, not to cheer, but to witness. This is a ceremony after all, a celebration of small progress, the kind that doesn't come with medals or fanfare, the kind that happens quietly when no one's watching, the first deep breath after a long cry, remembering to drink water, answering a message you've been avoiding with kindness, letting someone in, letting someone go. You feel it in your chest, not the tearful kind of emotion, the warmth of it. A hedgehog in glasses and a vest toddles behind the musicians, holding a clipboard nearly as large as himself. He pauses, checks something off, then nods, satisfied. You clap, softly. The owl does not. He is, for reasons only known to him, deeply focused on staring at a nearby lantern. You sip your tea, still warm in your hand, though you don't remember lifting it. The librarian appears beside you, not walking, just arriving. She's made of folded paper and pressed flowers, now different from before, as if the act of lending a book reassembled her. In her delicate hands, she carries an envelope. It smells faintly of lilac and pencil shavings. For you, she says, and her voice sounds like the turning of a page. Then she vanishes. No puff, no sound. Just gone. You open the envelope. Inside is a card, handwritten looping calligraphy ink the color of old moss. There is one door left to open. You glance around. Every door in the garden begins to glow. Some are tall, others small. A few shaped like questions, one like an unfinished sentence. But none of them call to you. Not yet. Because something else pulls your attention. The cake. Still there. Still waiting. You're not sure what changes. But you're ready now. You lift your fork. Cut a sliver. Take a bite. It doesn't taste like anything at first. Then everything. The first time you realized someone truly liked you. The moment you failed and forgave yourself anyway. The quiet joy of sitting in a sunbeam doing nothing at all. The version of you that stayed soft despite everything. The taste isn't sweet or rich, it's true. And in that moment, you feel it. Presence, not the kind that needs to prove itself. Just being here, right now, exactly as you are. A single clap breaks the silence. Just one. And with it, the entire table vanishes. No explosion, no swirl. It simply fades like mist, remembering how to be air. You're standing again, full, seen, held. The owl lands gently on your shoulder. He's quiet for a moment, then clears his throat in the way only owls do. Well, he says, adjusting his monocle. Now the fun begins. You tilt your head. That wasn't the fun. He chuckles, a sound like feathers brushing parchment. Oh no. That, he says, was just the invitation. The owl doesn't wait for you to answer. Instead, he hops from your shoulder and glides ahead, not flapping, not flustering, just floating like he belongs more to the wind than to feathers. You follow. The stone beneath your feet is cool, though you don't feel cold. The air has shifted again, no longer sweet with feast spices, but cleaner, crisper like pages before they're written on. The garden opens before you, not wider but deeper, in a way that can't be measured in miles. And there it is, the door, the one you somehow knew would wait for you. Round, wooden, unpainted. Its surface is etched with tiny carvings, spirals, waves, half-finished hearts, half-remembered faces. Nothing symmetrical, nothing polished, just honest. You run your hand across it. It feels like driftwood and lullabies and the bark of your favorite childhood tree. Remember, the owl says, this one doesn't open forward. You look at him. He blinks, then vanishes. You don't panic. He always leaves just before the important part. You close your eyes, take a breath, turn the handle, and walk backward. One step, then another. The door creaks, but only a little, like it's exhaling a memory it kept safe for you. You feel the shift before you see it, like something behind your ribs turns inside out. When you open your eyes, you're not in the garden anymore. You're not sure where you are, but you know when. Because this is not now. This is then. The air smells like rain on warm pavement. You stand on a street corner, but the buildings are fuzzy, like they've been drawn from memory, yours probably. It's dusk or dawn. Hard to tell. The sky is violet pink, and the clouds drift by like lazy thoughts. A street lamp flickers. A dog barks somewhere behind you. And you remember, this was the place where you once waited too long to say something important. You don't remember what it was. Only how heavy it felt in your chest, like holding a gift you were too afraid to give. You step forward. The street doesn't resist. It allows you. And each step takes you somewhere else, not through space, through you. You turn a corner and find a hallway lined with jackets, yours, from every season of your life. The green hoodie with the frayed cuffs, the velvet blazer you only wore once but never threw away, a raincoat still smelling faintly of seaweed and summer storms. You smile and walk on. Now a staircase. Each step makes a sound you've heard before. The creak of your childhood home. The snap of a twig under your feet at a campsite. The hush of a theater curtain drawing closed. At the top, a door. No handle. Just a small plaque that reads, "You didn't miss it. It's still here." You press your palm against it. It swings open. And now, a kitchen, dimly lit. Soft light spills from under cabinets, casting golden pools on the floor. It smells like cinnamon and old coffee, and whatever your heart used to call home. Someone is humming, not a song you know, but your bones recognize it. You see the back of a figure at the stove, no details. Just a suggestion of warmth and welcome. They're making something, and you know. Without knowing how that it's for you, you sit at the table. Your chair rocks slightly like a memory being gently stirred. A cup is placed in front of you. You lift it, sip. It tastes like the first time someone told you they were proud of you. The humming stops. The figure turns. But not all the way. Just enough to let you see. Nothing sharp. Just the outline of comfort. And you hear them speak, not with words, but with the kind of silence that wraps itself around you like a thick quilt. You blink, and the kitchen is gone. Now, starlight again, but this time it's stitched into curtains. You're in a small room round like the inside of a music box. There's only one chair. You sit. A box rests in your lap, carved from moonwood tied with a string that hums faintly. You don't open it. Not yet. Not because you're afraid, but because you know this box holds a moment. You've forgotten how to remember, and when the time is right, it'll open itself. You lean back. The ceiling above you is painted with all the constellations you wish existed. A fox dancing with a teacup. A kite shaped like forgiveness. A hand reaching not for help, but to offer. You smile, and something loosens inside your chest. You close your eyes. The chair begins to rock, not side to side, but gently backward, through time, through self, through softness, through stillness, until you feel the owl's talons again, light, reassuring, and his voice quiet in your ear. "Well done," he says. You open your eyes. The box is gone. The chair is still. The door before you, the one you came through, is now painted with stars. But you don't turn around, because ahead, another path has appeared. It glows faintly, and at its edge, a table, just one, with a single candle burning, and an envelope resting beside it. You step forward, and everything is exactly as it should be. You approach the table slowly. It doesn't beckon. It doesn't glow any brighter. It just waits the way a good secret does, unhurried, warm, and entirely sure of itself. The candle flickers. It smells faintly of oranges and ink, the kind of ink that stains your fingertips and refuses to be scrubbed off until it's done telling its story. The envelope is sealed with wax, dark blue, stamped with a symbol you almost recognize, a compass rose inside a spiral. You reach for it, and the candle flares for just a moment, not in warning, in recognition. The wax melts without touch. The flap opens. You slide the letter out. The paper is thick, the color of aged parchment. You expect it to be cold, but it's not. It's warm, faintly pulsing, as if it remembers being written. And when you unfold it, you know, you wrote this, not in waking, not even in sleep, but in that quiet middle place where memory and imagination forget whose turn it is. The handwriting is yours, but steadier, wiser, less afraid of curves. The ink glitters in some places, fades in others. You read, "Dear you, I know you've forgotten when we last spoke. That's all right. I haven't. You were sitting in the bath, I think, or under a tree. You were thinking about quitting or beginning. Either way, you were exactly where you needed to be. I wanted to remind you, you don't owe the world a constant improvement. You're allowed to plateau. You're allowed to soften. You're allowed to be still. That quiet in your chest isn't absence. It's peace, learning your shape. And yes, you are still allowed to wonder. Love me, the version of you that never stopped dreaming." You sit down. The chair accepts your weight with a contented creak. You fold the letter, not to hide it, just to tuck it closer. It slides into your pocket like it always belonged there. The candle dims, then brightens again, as if pleased. And the table shifts, not the wood, not the shape, the feeling. Where there was once invitation, now there's instruction. Not harsh, not stern, just clear. A book appears, bound in midnight blue, no title. You open it. The pages are blank, but one by one they begin to fill in, not with words, with moments. You brushing someone's hair while they talk about nothing. You sitting in silence beside someone who just lost something. You laughing when you didn't think you could. You crying when no one was watching and letting it be okay. You forgiving. You remembering. You trying. The owl lands silently beside you, doesn't speak, just nods, approving. You look up and realize the candle is no longer alone. All around you, new candles have appeared, each one corresponding to a page in the book. And as you turn the pages, more light blooms, not glaring, soft, like dawn through linen curtains. And then music, again, but different this time. Not from an instrument, not from the air, from you. It rises gently from your chest, a vibration of resonance, as if all your tiny truths had decided to sing at once. It doesn't sound pretty. It sounds honest. The owl leans in his eyes wide and gleaming. "You're beginning to hum," he says, then chuckles. "Told you you were musical." You shake your head, smile, stand, and the candle extinguishes itself with a satisfied puff. The book closes. The table sighs and disappears. You're standing on another path now, but this one doesn't lead forward. It spirals upward. like smoke that's decided to climb. You step onto it, and it holds. With each step, a star flickers above you and drops closer, not falling, arriving, until you're walking through a sky that's remembering how to be close. You don't look down. There's nothing to see but stories you've already lived. You look ahead, at the next flickering light, at what waits in the next memory, at the next dream you don't yet know you need. And just before the owl takes flight beside you, you hear his voice one last time tonight, ready to write the next page. You don't answer. You don't need to, because the humming inside you already has, remembers. Each step takes you a little higher, and the sky becomes less of a ceiling, more of a companion. The constellations rearrange themselves around your pace as if curious where you're going, but respectful enough not to ask. Eventually, the path ends at a door. Just a door. Freestanding, floating in a patch of sky shaped like nostalgia. No frame, no hinges. Just a warm glow from the other side. You place your hand on the knob. It's smooth, familiar, like the spine of a book you haven't read yet, but already love. You open it and step through, not into a new world, but into a memory you haven't lived yet. It's raining, but softly, the kind of rain that smells like promises kept in secret. You're standing on the platform of a train station. You recognize nothing, but you're not afraid. A sign overhead reads, "Someday Line 3." Underneath, in smaller letters, all departure times are acceptable. The train is already waiting. It breathes like a sleeping animal, warm and humming with potential. The conductor, a woman wearing a jacket made of woven maps, nods at you. She doesn't ask for a ticket. She just tips her hat, the brim flickering with scenes from places you've never visited. You board. The hallway inside the train curves like a question you're learning to enjoy asking. Each door along the corridor has your handwriting on it. Room 1. The letter you'll write but never send. Room 2. The conversation that finally ends the loop. Room 3. The day you feel safe being fully known. You don't open any of them. Not yet. At the end of the corridor is a window. You sit beside it. Outside, the rain lets up, revealing a landscape that isn't one place. It shifts with each blink. A golden desert, a snowy village lit only by fireflies, a city where people dance in silence and speak through colored ribbons. The owl is beside you again. You didn't see him arrive. He peers out the window. "Ah," he says softly, "you're dreaming forward." You glance at him. Is that allowed? He snorts affectionately. In dreams, it's encouraged. You both fall into quiet again. And then, soft footsteps. A child enters your compartment. They're about 6, wearing a coat several sizes too big and holding a notebook that glows faintly. They don't speak. Just sit across from you, open the notebook, and begin to draw. A sky, a door, a train. You. Their crayon is the color of beginning. After a moment, they pause and show you the page. It's a perfect replica of what's around you. But in their version, you're smiling a little wider. There's a second cup of tea on the table between you. You glance down, and now there is steam curling, smelling faintly of lemon and courage. You sip. It tastes like the first time you said what you meant without apology. The child closes the notebook, hands it to you, and without a word, leaves. You look down. On the back cover, a note: "You'll need this later." You tuck it into your robe. The owl speaks. "Would you like to see your stop?" You nod. He taps the window once with his wing. The view shifts. Now you see it. A small village, somewhere between memory and invention. Cobblestone streets, windows glowing with stories, people with faces you almost recognize like dreams. You forgot the moment you woke. Someone waves, not at the train, at you. And though you've never been here, you remember them. The way you remember a line from a book you read only once but held on to forever. The train slows. You stand. The owl hops onto your shoulder again. You exit onto the platform, and the moment your feet touch the ground, you know you're living a memory you'll one day be nostalgic for. The scent in the air is honey and wood smoke. A child runs by trailing ribbons. Wind chimes play in the key of welcome, and you walk, not toward a plot, not toward a lesson, but toward a moment that simply wants to be had. A fire crackles ahead. A group of people sits around it, passing a bowl of something golden. You join them. Someone smiles. "We were waiting for you." You sit. The bowl comes to you. Inside, small stars, candied. You eat one. It crackles on your tongue like hope rediscovered. Someone says, "Tell us a story you haven't lived yet." And without thinking, you begin. You're mid-sentence when the stars blink. Not out, just inward. Like they're listening. The group around the fire doesn't interrupt. They don't need the end of the story. They already know it somehow. Or maybe they've lived it sideways in a dream they couldn't quite hold on to. The bowl of candied stars rests in your lap, now warm and pulsing like a very small, very content heart. Across from you, someone who looks like your third grade art teacher, but with dragonfly wings, leans forward. "It's time," they say gently. "For what?" They smile. The next table. You blink. And now you're standing again. There's no transition, just presence. The owl flutters beside your ear. "Keep walking." You do. Not hurriedly, just with a quiet kind of resolve. Like someone who's begun to remember who they are. The path narrows. The stars above shift into a soft curtain of shimmering mist. And when it lifts, you're back at a feast. Not the same one. This is deeper, not darker, just closer to the root of things. The table stretches long into the distance, but this time it curves gently upward at both ends, like a smile you didn't expect to trust. The seats are mismatched: rocking chairs, mossy stumps, velvet cushions, hammocks, even a lily pad that floats just slightly above the stone floor. You find yours easily. It looks like a crescent moon, sculpted from folded letters you never sent. You sit. Your hands rest on the table, and something rests back. Not a plate. A mirror, fogged slightly like it's been sighing in your absence. You look into it, but you don't see yourself. You see a scene. Your own eyes from the outside, in a moment long forgotten, sitting in the back of a school bus. A single tear, not because you were sad, because something finally made sense. Your reflection looks back at you now. You nod to each other, and the mirror becomes a plate again. Only now it holds something. A single bite of truth. It doesn't look like much. Just a cube of something amber and shimmering, like honey. Or maybe fossilized light. You lift your fork and hesitate. The owl watches. You don't have to. You do it anyway. The moment it touches your tongue, the world doesn't explode. It settles, like puzzle pieces clicking into place inside your chest. You close your eyes and see the time you told someone, "I'm fine," and weren't. The time you said, "I don't know," and truly didn't. The moment you realized both could be true, and that was okay. You open your eyes. The table glows faintly now, not from candles, from admission. Everyone's plate is different, but everyone is glowing just a little. Across from you, someone says, "Mine tasted like a truth. I'm not ready to speak." You nod. "Mine too." The next course arrives without ceremony. A small bowl filled with water, but not just water. Reflection, possibility. You look in and see a version of you who said yes when you once said no. A version who rested instead of pushing. A version who forgave just a little sooner. You sip. It tastes like what you thought closure would be. Not sweet, not bitter, just still. A new presence joins the table, tall, wrapped in a cloak of candle smoke and late-night phone calls that were never made. They don't sit. They just place something in the center of the table. A bell jar filled with what looks like fog and flickering gold. Your owl tilts his head. "May I?" he asks. You nod. He taps the jar once. It lifts, and the fog pours out. But instead of vanishing, it becomes a room, a memory. You're all inside it now. Soft walls, wider than logic. The air is thick with truth told in lullabies. A fire crackles. Someone sings without words. You're all younger here and older. You sit together. No one speaks. No one needs to. The room holds space, and that space holds you. Then the owl clears his throat gently, and the fog recedes. The table returns. One last course appears, a folded napkin. You unfold yours. It doesn't say anything. It asks, "What truth have you outgrown?" You set the napkin down. Let the question breathe. And somewhere in your mind, a voice, maybe your own, whispers that I must always earn rest. You nod to yourself. That will do. The owl smiles faint and proud. You rise. So do the others. No one claps. No one cheers. But there's something in the air now. Not closure. Clarity. The feast begins to dissolve. One flicker at a time. You step back from the table. Still full, but also lighter. The owl flutters back to your shoulder, ready for the part no one talks about. You don't even ask. You just say yes. And ahead, a new corridor opens, curving into quiet, where dreams go, not to end, but to settle. The corridor isn't long, but it bends in a way that makes time hesitate. Like it's waiting for you to catch up to yourself. Each step sounds different, not like footsteps on stone or wood, but like a spoon dipping into a new jar of something strange and sweet. You smell lavender and lemon and something faintly metallic like old coins and older secrets. The owl remains perched on your shoulder. He's humming something under his breath. You don't recognize the tune, but your bones do. The end of the corridor doesn't open. It melts, revealing a kitchen, a small one, lit by moonlight that seems to have made itself at home here, curling into corners, lining the shelves. stirring itself into every bowl. It's not an ordinary kitchen. Nothing here is. The pots hang upside down, suspended by threads of forgotten lullabies. The spice rack hums, softly labels glowing regret to taste, forgiveness aged, hope crushed or whole. A cutting board gently snores. The table is round, and in the center sits a teapot, shaped like the moon's last good dream. You sit without being asked. A chair appears beneath you, stitched from old aprons and new beginnings. The owl hops down onto the table. This, he says, is where the moon keeps its recipes. You glance toward the far wall. It's covered in parchment, pinned in spirals, ink that glows only when you don't look directly at it. You're allowed to try one, the owl says, but only one. You walk the spiral, finger tracing the air beside the glowing scripts. They don't shimmer for everyone, you realize. Only when you truly want what they offer. One glows gently beneath your hand. You stop, read, recipe for remembering who you were before the world told you otherwise. You smile. That will do. You lift the parchment. It folds itself into a small warm card. You return to the table. The owl pushes a teacup toward you. Steam curls upward, forming a spiral staircase before vanishing. Steeped in memory, he says casually. Sweetened with second chances. You sip. It tastes like your grandmother's handwriting. The way a hug feels after a long misunderstanding. The quiet space between "I'm sorry" and "I forgive you." You close your eyes. When you open them, the table has filled with ingredients. Each one whispers. A lemon that recites bedtime stories in a forgotten dialect of starlight. A bundle of rosemary that giggles when touched. A cracked egg that shows you your most beautiful mistake when you peer inside. You begin cooking. You don't know how, but your hands do. They move gently, confidently, cracking, folding, stirring. At one point you cry, not for sadness, just because something you didn't know you'd lost finally found its way back. The owl supervises, of course, offering advice only in riddles. Bake it until it hums. Season with the feeling you had at age 7 when you thought the moon followed your bike. Let it cool beneath the shadow of something you almost forgot. At last, your dish is done. It's not a pie, not a cake, not a stew. It's a memory shaped into food. It glows softly, like it knows you. You lift your fork, taste. It's you. From before the rush, before the race. When wonder wasn't earned, it was assumed. You set the fork down. The room exhales. The parchment recipes begin to curl themselves back into sleep. The shelves dim. Even the moonlight begins to yawn. The owl stands. Time to clean up, he says. You don't see brooms or soap, but everything begins tidying itself. Not perfectly, but lovingly, like someone preparing the room for a story that hasn't been written yet. At the door, a hook holds a cloak. You recognize it. It's made of your quietest joys. The first line of a book that changed you. A skipped stone that made it to 5. That one photo where you're not posing, just being. You put it on. It fits. A final parchment flutters down from the ceiling and lands in your palm. You open it. Only 3 words. You remember now. You nod. The owl doesn't ask where you'll go next. He knows. You step through the door, and the kitchen folds behind you, like a recipe passed down not in words, but in the smell of someone making it for you once. The next room is quiet, but not heavy, not solemn. More like the kind of quiet that lingers after someone tells a really good joke, one you're still thinking about 3 days later. The air feels lighter, like it's waiting for something or someone. The owl flutters ahead of you as if he's heard a whisper from the future. You follow. The corridor turns to silk beneath your feet, smooth, cool, stitched with threads of conversation. It carries you to a wide circular chamber lit entirely by floating lanterns that bob up and down, each one glowing with laughter that hasn't happened yet. At the center, a, a balloon, large, round, softly glowing like a peach made of helium and hope. It hovers a few inches above the floor, anchored by a ribbon of silver string and what looks suspiciously like a joke written in invisible ink. Careful, says the owl now perched on a coat rack made entirely of question marks. This one's picky. What is it, you ask? A memory lifter or a mood sail, depending on the forecast. He gestures toward the balloon with his wing. It only rises with laughter. You blink. That's oddly specific. Most important things are you approach the balloon. Its surface shimmers with colors that don't quite exist in waking life. Sunset mauve, nostalgic turquoise curiosity, gold. Beneath it sits a trunk, old leather, covered in travel stickers from cities you've only visited in dreams. It opens when you get near. Inside cards, dozens, maybe hundreds, each labeled in looping script, a ridiculous moment you forgot you loved. The time the cat did that one thing. That one joke from that one friend you haven't seen in years. You pull out a card. Read. When your shoe squeaked in a quiet museum and someone else squeaked back. You smile, then chuckle. The balloon rises a half inch. You draw another, laughing so hard at nothing that you snorted tea through your nose. You laugh louder this time. The balloon floats higher. The owl claps a single wing. You're getting it. The room shifts, not jarringly, just slightly, enough to feel the tilt. A second balloon appears beside the first, smaller, labeled communal joy. You're not alone anymore. Others enter, not many, just enough. People dressed in pajamas, stitched from jokes they'd long forgotten. One wears a cape made of tickled memories. Another has socks patterned with snort laughs and hiccups. They don't speak. They giggle, chuckle, chortle every time they remember something worth remembering. The air fills with the scent of candied ginger, warm blankets, and punch lines told by firelight. The balloon begins to lift slow and certain, carrying everyone upward. You're floating now, seated on a plush bench that wasn't there a moment ago. The chamber has become a balloon's gondola, wide and round, and stitched from paper cranes folded during lunch breaks. Below you, the spiral garden, the hanging kitchens, the memory observatory. Above, the stars blinking like they've heard every joke and still think this one's the best. The owl hovers nearby now, wearing aviator goggles that look suspiciously made from upside-down teacups. He points with one claw. Do you see it? You follow his gaze. Far in the distance, a floating island. It glows softly. From it rises the faintest sound, not music, not speech, just Joy, unfiltered, uncomplicated. The balloon angles toward it. A breeze brushes your cheek. You look around. The others are smiling now, not the wide, toothy kind. The quiet, grateful kind. One person whispers something too softly to hear. Another wipes a tear, still grinning. You realize not all laughter is noise. Sometimes it's just release, a loosening. The balloon understands. It climbs higher. The clouds part like curtains. And there, painted across the sky in light that hums with delight. A story told entirely in giggles and echoes. The sky laughs with you. You're laughing now too. At everything and nothing. At how silly and sacred it is to be alive. The balloon touches down, gently, like a sigh between good friends. You step out, so do the others. But they don't vanish. They just wander into other stories, other dreams. The owl nods toward a nearby bench, carved from comedy sketches and half-remembered sitcoms. You sit, catch your breath. The balloon, now empty, lifts again, slowly, quietly, but not alone. It carries something intangible with it, something all of you left behind. The weight that kept it grounded. A small envelope flutters down from the balloon's basket. You catch it, open it. One line. You laughed. That counts. You fold the note and tuck it away, because it does, and it will. The bench beneath you creaks gently, but not from age, from anticipation. Like it knows the next part of the evening has been steeping quietly, waiting for the water to be just the right temperature. The owl hops off the coat rack of question marks and flutters beside you, a scroll dangling from his beak. It unrolls in midair, blank, except for a single ink-smudged direction, due curiosity. You glance up. There's no compass. There never is, the owl replies. But if you listen carefully, you do. At first, nothing. Then a faint clinking. Porcelain. Spoons against cups. And a scent. Bergamot. Cardamom. A hint of something wilder. Curiosity, perhaps. You follow the scent, the sound, the pull. The path narrows, cobbled with pieces of old letters, doodles from forgotten margins, and torn pieces of maps that never made sense. As you walk, the trees grow stranger. One has teacups, blooming from its branches like spring blossoms. Another drops sugar cubes in slow motion from hollow knots. You pass a signpost. No words, just symbols. A question mark, a steaming teapot, an open door. You choose the middle one, naturally. The path ends at the very edge of a cliff. But the cliff doesn't fall away into nothingness. It falls away into folds, like the edge of a page in a book no one's finished yet. There, hovering just above the cliffside on a platform of woven ivy and good intentions, a tea table, long, crooked, adorned with mismatched teacups and slices of cake that hum softly when you look directly at them. Each place is set, each chair unique, yours. It has your childhood nickname carved into the back. You smile. Sit. The owl settles beside the teapot, which begins to pour itself. Others join you. Quietly. One wears a hat shaped like a riddle. Another carries a spoon longer than their arm. They nod pleasantly. No names are exchanged. Only questions. How do you know when you're really awake? What's your favorite shape of silence? Do you think dreams remember us when we forget them? You answer without thinking and sip without asking what's in your cup. It tastes like the feeling of solving a puzzle without needing to know the answer. A server arrives. She's mostly steam and smiles, her apron stitched from topography lines and lullabies. She serves scones made from moonlight and marmalade, jam jars that contain forgotten compliments, butter knives that hum your favorite lullaby from age 7. A bell rings, not from the table, but from somewhere deeper. The owl tilts his head. Time for the map. You blink. What map? He gestures to the center of the table. Where once there was nothing, now lies a paper. Blank. At first. Then slowly, ink begins to bloom. Not from above, but from beneath. As though the table is remembering the way forward. The map draws itself. Not of places, of paths, personal ones, regrets shaped like rivers, wishes curled into hills, the name of someone you once loved, written in constellations above a forest of maybe. You lean in, trace a finger along the path labeled almost. Where does this lead you, ask? The owl shrugs, which is oddly expressive for a bird. Wherever you'd go if you stopped worrying about arriving. You sit back, sip again. This time the tea tastes like possibility with a pinch of disbelief. The wind picks up gently. A napkin flies off the table and no one chases it. Everyone watches it flap like a butterfly with secrets. The server bows low, places a biscuit shaped like a key on your saucer, and whispers, when you're ready to leave, you'll know which door needs it. Then she dissolves, not tragically, like steam meeting cool air. The others rise one by one, not urgently, like flowers uncurling after a good sleep. They pocket crumbs of laughter and fold their teacups into origami memories. You do the same. Your chair stands on its own again. The map rolls itself tight, tucks into your coat pocket. The owl says nothing, just watches you. You nod. Look toward the edge of the platform, the fold in the page. There's a door now, plain, unlabeled, but humming slightly with recognition. You step toward it, and behind you, the teacups clink softly together one last time, as if to say, good. You ask the right questions. The door opens, not with a creak or a groan, but a hush, like velvet pulling back on a stage made of sky. The world beyond is dark but not empty. A field of tall grasses sways under a navy blue canopy of stars. Fireflies hover just above the blades, blinking in quiet Morse code like punctuation marks to sentences not yet spoken. You step forward. The grass parts gently respecting your pace. The owl remains silent on your shoulder, feather light and reverent. You don't speak either, not here. Words would feel like breaking something fragile. Up ahead, the shape begins to form. A silhouette first, then a shimmer, then the lighthouse. It stands alone on a dune of wind-polished stone rising like a question from the earth. Its glass top glows dimly, not from a bulb or a flame, but from inside the very idea of light. It is not tethered to any sea. It faces no coast, just stars, a beacon for wanderers not lost, but wondering. The owl finally speaks. She doesn't appear for just anyone. You glance at him. She, the keeper. Of course, there's a keeper. As you approach the door at the lighthouse base, creaks open before you knock. Inside warmth, not temperature. Memory. The room smells of lemon balm and old wood. The floorboards hum underfoot like contented cats. A staircase spirals upward, thin as a thought, and standing beside it her, the lighthouse keeper. She's wrapped in a robe that flickers with images, ships from forgotten dreams, maps drawn in ash and ink, stars that blink in patterns only children and poets understand. Her hair is silver smoke. Her eyes are rain in sunlight. She says nothing, just nods. Then disappears upward into the spiral. You follow. The climb takes longer than time, not in hours, in memory. Each step echoes with an emotion, the sound of being chosen first, the weight of an almost apology, the warmth of a room you hadn't entered since you were 7. At the top, the room opens like a lung, glass walls, no switches, no controls, just a glowing pool of light at the center of the floor, swirling slowly like stirred tea. The keeper stands beside it, barefoot, one hand extended toward you. You step forward, place your hand beside hers, not touching, just adjacent. The pool ripples, and above it, the light begins to project not onto walls, but into space. You're no longer in the lighthouse. You're in a moment, your moment, floating around you like constellations made of memory. There you are laughing so hard you fall over. There again, afraid to speak, but doing it anyway. And there alone, but okay with it. Versions of you like lanterns drifting upward. You watch, silent. Tears don't fall, they rise. The keeper looks at you, nods. This is your north, you whisper. I didn't know I needed one. You always did, she replies. She steps into the pool and vanishes like light through glass. The room breathes in, then out. And so do you. The owl glides across the room, now wings brushing against the constellations. It's almost time. You nod. The light begins to dim, but not from loss, from completion. The way a candle chooses to stop burning. When the room has remembered enough, you descend. The staircase is shorter now. The door opens to a different night, softer, more whole. Outside, the path resumes. Stone grass, starlight, but with a hush beneath it, like something sacred has just shifted into place. You don't speak. The owl doesn't either. But the silence is no longer absence. It's presence. Up ahead, a bridge of woven light spans a river made of moonlight and ink. You walk toward it. At the center of the bridge, a bench, empty, waiting. You sit, not to rest, to absorb. The breeze smells faintly of endings that turned into beginnings. A paper boat drifts beneath you, glowing faintly with a symbol you almost remember from childhood. The owl speaks once more. Your next chapter is waiting. You turn to him, smiling. I know. You rise from the bench on the bridge of woven light. The river beneath you swirls like brushed ink, then smooths like a sigh, settling into sleep. Up ahead, beyond the gentle fog, something hums, not music, but the suggestion of music notes still deciding whether they want to be heard. The path curves again shyly, like it's giving you one last moment to prepare. You take it. As you walk, the fog parts in threads revealing doorways. Dozens of them, some freestanding in open air, others framed by ivy or carved into trees. Each one vibrates softly with its own tone, like a tuning fork struck in the heart. You step closer. One door hums in a low, soothing C, another in a bright, laughing A. None are locked, all are listening, waiting, but not pressing. This choice is yours, and you already know which one is yours, don't you? You pass ornate doors carved with mythic animals, tiny ones the size of teacups glowing faintly, one made of woven lullabies and dust-colored ribbon. And then you see it, your door, not grand, not glowing, just right, wooden, yes, but smoothed by age and familiarity, like it's been waiting for you since before you could walk. On the center, a small brass keyhole, no knob, no sign. But something inside is humming in the same key as your breath. You reach out, touch it, and without resistance, the door swings inward. There is no room behind it. There is no hallway, just music. Warm and rising. You step through, and you are surrounded by its sound and memory braided together like threads of light. A song begins, but not one you've ever heard before. Still, it knows you. It knows how you once sang into a fan to make robot sounds, how you hummed when you were scared, how you stopped singing for a while, and how one day, quietly, you began again. The space glows like an aurora slowed down. You see lyrics drifting through the air, not in ink, but in meaning. Phrases like, "You are the note that needed no harmony," and "Even silence counts as part of the melody." You look down. There's no floor, just music under your feet, liquid and alive. You walk on it anyway. You always could. You just forgot. A figure appears ahead, draped in twilight blue robes. Stitched with constellations, they hold a harp strung with wind. They don't speak. They don't need to. They raise one hand, and the music responds. Not louder, not faster, just deeper, like it's smiling. They point behind you, and you turn. The door you entered through is no longer there. In its place, a mirror, not reflective, not exactly. It shows not how you look, but how you sound. A ribbon of color, a pulse of rhythm, a tiny melody looping and never quite the same twice. Your song, not perfect, but unmistakably, beautifully you. You watch it for a while, maybe a long while. Time doesn't mind. Eventually, the harpist steps forward and offers you something small, a string, thin, gleaming, vibrating softly. You take it, and the second you do it, dissolves into your hand and your voice. Not your speaking voice, the other one, the one you haven't used in years, maybe lifetimes. It hums quietly inside you now, like a promise kept. The harpist nods once more, then vanishes into a swell of silence. The music does not end. It settles. It curls up like a cat at your feet and begins to purr. You close your eyes, breathe, and when you open them, you're back in the gardens. The feast table is gone. The chairs are gone. Even the owl is gone for now. But you're not alone. All around you, guests walk softly beneath the hanging vines and glowing lanterns. No one speaks, but no one needs to. They've all heard their song, or are about to. And now, it's your turn to hum. You do, softly. A lullaby without lyrics. A melody without destination. Just enough to say, I was here, I'm still here. And I've remembered how to sing. Above the stars, shift again. One by one, they begin to pulse in rhythm. Not constellations, not maps, but music. A symphony written in light. And you are part of its chorus, not background, not soloist. just a note that matters. The final door didn't take you away. It brought you home. You sit in the grass, the music still curling in your chest. And from somewhere nearby, the owl returns. He perches on a nearby tree, watching you. He does not speak, but you hear him all the same. His silence is an anchor, and you understand. Now you are ready, not for sleep, but for the dream that follows. You open your eyes, but not the way you usually do. Not with that squinting blink into morning light, that sleepy reaching for time. This is different. This is slower, gentler, like the world is waiting to exhale until you're ready. The ceiling above you is familiar, your room, but there's a shimmer to it. Not visible exactly, felt, like waking up with the scent of a dream still on your skin. You sit up. Your sheets feel normal, cotton soft, a little tangled, but your pillow still carries the warmth of something that held you. The echo of a distant melody hums just under the quiet, not enough to follow, just enough to remember. On your nightstand, where there used to be a cup of water, there's something else now. A small folded note, unmarked. You open it. Inside, written in handwriting, not yours, and yet somehow familiar. You left just before the final story. We saved you a seat. You smile, because of course they did. You stand, stretch, and when your feet touch the floor, something small and round rolls toward you from under the bed. A marble? No, a pearl. You pick it up. It pulses once warmly, then stills. And as you hold it, you hear for a single second a garden, a flute, laughter, and a single clap. In the mirror, your reflection blinks back, normal, but different. There's something in your eyes, not a sparkle, not a glow, more like a knowing, like you've heard the rest of the sentence. Everyone else is still trying to finish. As you dress, you check your pockets. One is empty. The other holds something soft. You pull it out. A napkin, folded neatly. It smells faintly of cinnamon and ink. You unfold it. The sentence is still there. You are allowed to stop searching. You nod and fold it again with care. You leave your room. The world greets you like it always does, with sunlight and the faint creaks of morning. But everything feels in tune. Birdsong chirps in a familiar key. Your footsteps sound like punctuation marks in a comforting paragraph. Even your refrigerator hums a little lullaby in C major. At breakfast, your spoon hums once before settling into silence. You don't question it. You stir your tea clockwise and feel the steam curl into a shape that might be a question mark. You don't chase it. Not everything needs an answer. Some things are better as echoes. Outside, the wind smells like curiosity. Not flowers, not rain, curiosity. The air has that slight shimmer again, not like magic, more like memory, like the dream hasn't fully let go yet, and maybe never will. You walk through the day as usual, but small things shift. People glance at you like they almost recognize you from somewhere older than memory. The barista hands you your order before you ask, and the cup has your name written in a language no one speaks. But you understand. You hum while waiting for the bus, and the person beside you matches the note unconsciously. And the streetlight seems to change not with the traffic, but with your breath. That night, as you prepare for sleep, you find the marble again. It's moved, resting now in the center of your pillow. You place it on the windowsill. It glows faintly, like a lighthouse for dreams, just in case someone else needs to find their way. As you lie back, your blanket settles over you with the gentleness of closing pages. And somewhere between blink and breath, you hear a familiar voice. Well, says the owl, you made it back. You smile, eyes closed. Voice soft. I never really left, did I? There's no answer. Just the rustle of wings and a door opening. Somewhere, the garden still exists. Not in time, not in space, but in you. In the rhythm of your steps, the melody of your thoughts, the constellation map behind your eyelids. The story didn't end. It folded, like a napkin tucked in a pocket, like a sentence paused mid-thought. And as you drift, the dream begins. Not as a repeat, as a continuation. A spiral staircase rising inward. You'll go back one day. You'll hear the music again. But for now, you sleep, not to forget, but to remember better. The end. Or just the invitation